What's the issue with making a huge pull request? Like say you added 30 new UI components, or you upgraded React from version 16 to version 19, and 650 files were included in the pull request. Don't ask me why I know that from experience, why nobody listened to me that it was gonna be a bad idea, and that I had to live through it. But that's why this video is here. So the issue is when you make a massive pull request, your code is not gonna actually get reviewed. And here's what I mean by that. Yes, you can make your pull request that changes hundreds of lines of code, or that adds a ton of new features, or adds a ton of new components. And yes, you can add a reviewer and they will say that they looked at the code, but being realistic, nobody actually reads in detail, thinking about all the edge cases, 600 files, 500 files. Nobody's gonna do that. Actually, we have a joke in software engineering that if you add one feature, people will give you constructive criticism. Hey, you missed this edge case. You should memoize this. You should consider doing this. They'll give you some kind of feedback, useful feedback. Whereas if you make a change that's huge and people feel lazy, they're just gonna comment, looks good to me. So the central idea is when you make your pull request too large, when the scope of it's too large, when too many files are being changed, when there's too much going on, people aren't going to review it in detail and bugs are gonna slip through. You might have poor coding practices like global variables or mutated state, and those are gonna get missed because simply nobody's gonna read it. So we're not just here to complain though. We said what's wrong with making large pull requests. So let's also talk about what we should do instead. Well, the simplest solution when you have a large pull request, well, first of all, we don't want to get to that point. So how do we avoid getting to that point? We instead look at whatever request or idea that we initially wanted to tackle with the code. So what were we initially doing with the code? So for example, if you had some ticket or some task that you received from your manager and it said, update all class components to be functional components in our UI component library. You can't upgrade, well, you can upgrade everything from a class component to a functional component, but if we're refactoring 80 components, 100 components, we come to the issue of the pull request becomes too large. So what do we do instead? We break it down into smaller, more manageable pieces of work. For example, upgrade all input components from class to functional components, upgrade all buttons from class to functional, upgrade all tables. And by shrinking the scope of the changes you want to make, when you do make pull requests, they're not going to be unwieldy. And so the changes you make, people will actually review carefully what you've done. Anytime you get a ticket that you think, this is going to take me weeks or months to complete, that's probably a good leading indicator that you need to shrink the scope of that ticket. Maybe you make sub-tickets that lead into that final mission, the final thing you wanted to change. And by doing that, your code quality will be a lot better. You'll have fewer bugs. Your reviewers won't hate you, and things will just be better overall. So take this advice and things will be a lot better for you and your team because of it.